Hello there, toy collectors. My name is Kevin, aka Toying Around, and I am very excited to bring you this special review.
If anything, the Kim family, they're archetypes.
Which is sad, but not always a bad thing.
I'm okay. I have one. Do you see all the name?
Let's try them. Let's still try.
Is this a robot voice? No, it's not. Ha! Take that. Hello there, everyone. My name is Kevin, aka Toying Around. I'm a toy collector, toy YouTuber, photographer sometimes. But you're watching Unboxing Thursdays. Thank you for being here. I have a huge pile of unopened toys, and this stream is a weekly push for me to open and unbox things, to make space so, we can buy bigger, more toys. But luckily, I get to do this every week. It's so much fun to chat with another collector in the community. They do awesome stuff, and get to open toys and discuss this really great hobby that I'm assuming the viewers right now are enjoying. So whether you're here for the first time or you're returning every week, thank you so much. It's much appreciated if you hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, share, let your friends know. Just let them know on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. It costs you nothing, but it helps the channel immensely. And everyone who does that week after week on social media, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, because you could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. Shout outs to everybody who's also the channel members here. If you're a channel member, you have it's an optional thing that you can do to help support the channel. Things like avoiding audio issues by getting headphones that work. Everything that people support the channel with all goes back to the channel. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Happy Thursday to everyone. Please, no spoilers for Boba Fett or Mandalorian Season 3. But if you want to talk about that, you can chat with us tomorrow night here on YouTube and Twitch, 9 p.m. Eastern. With Yoko, Paul, and Ernie. And following the pattern, it should be a good one tomorrow. So I'm really excited for that, and I hope everyone subscribes and catch up for more toy content. Last week, did an unboxing with our friend MCU Collector, and it was a really great episode. We went like 3.5 hours and just had fun chopping it up, talking about this whole hobby. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, hopefully you get a chance to rewatch it later. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to all the channel members, the Butter Army, Butter Rangers at the different tiers of support here on the channel. I know I interrupted myself explaining it, but it's depending on the tier. There's a lot of live streams here, interaction with the viewers and everyone here in the Butter Nation. So the tiers unlock different emojis that you could use in the chat every time I mess up something or someone tells a really boring story. There's a different level to interact in the chat. So thank you so much. So that's what's going on with the channel. So I hope you stay tuned and subscribe. Let everyone know. Just waiting for the guest to come back in a little bit with some tea. But in that time, I want to thank everyone who's watching tonight. Everyone who shared on Instagram. We have Matt Logic 44 in the house, says channel member. Thank you. Another channel member here, Darth Gutierrez, Bearded Builds. I know you took a shot at me earlier, but there was no robot voice. Toy Malarkey, what's going on? Thank you for sharing in your stories every week. Appreciate you. Channel member Toy Rensu, fellow Canadian, and he regrets not getting the SH Figure Arts integrated Spider-Man. We have him. Bearded Builds almost got a Canuck 4, but we missed it. I am Micah is here. Paul Morales, welcome back. Happy Thursday. Glad to see you here every week. We have Win or Lose. Tony Collector 10. Andrew J. LeBoy. Sorry, I'm just trying to read names and breeze through the comments, but I guess I could read the comments too. Andrew says, "What's up, everybody? What's going on? How are you doing? Happy Thursday." Tac Tac Toys with Film says, "Greetings, Kevin from the UK." Uh, Man, thanks for staying up and watching this. I know it's 2-ish a.m., I think. So thank you for tuning in. Omega Weapon 13, Stream Elements. Yoko is watching on Twitch. Shoutouts to Twitch and everyone over there. Matthew Toy, how are you doing? Killing it with some toy photography this week. Fantastic. Sal Sandoval says, "What up, Kev? Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday to you." Bearded Builds, Machu. Yeah, getting tea, right? Very fancy. Very classy guest. Courtney's here. What's going on, Courtney? Happy Thursday. All right, so what am I opening? I got a really cool package this week today. I saw this retailer had it in stock. We spoke about it last week with MCU Collector, and Toy Store Man has some stuff in stock. So I grabbed some Star Wars stuff, Princess Leia, Fennec Shand, and Bill Burr. So tune in tomorrow night for the Book of Boba Tea. You know, we get to talk show, we get to talk toys, and I'm going to open some stuff there. I'm going to save some of that there. But I'm also getting into like 3 3/4 vintage. So I might open some stuff there. But yeah, somebody pointed out the Sentinel earlier that I've relocated to the front here. And our guest tonight might have a story or two about that and other things. He's just a legend in the toy game and still killing it daily. I hope you're following Cortes Studio on Instagram because there's just like a library history of really cool stuff in there. Everyone, please welcome to the stream, Dave. Yo.
What's up? How's it going, Kevin?
All good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Trying to stay warm.
Trying to stay warm. You are in New York, so
Yes.
not too far from me here in Toronto. And I think from experience, New York weather is just slightly worse than Toronto. It's like usually the same timing, but it's like, because I think you're a little bit more south, not significantly, but there's a noticeable difference.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal right now, but this is, we should be used to it, right? I mean, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, and this is all I know, really. So, but it never, it always surprises me how cold it can get. And it's like just when you're getting closer to spring that it, really, I mean, we still got a couple of months to go, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. But yeah, like you said, born and raised there. For people in the chat or people watching this on the replay later, can you let people know a little bit about yourself? What are you into? Kind of hyped you up. So
Oh yeah. So I've always enjoyed some kind of artwork, right? Started out drawing and then found my way to clay. And the difference was significant. Like when I was able to, when it came to drawing and painting, I would have an idea and it just would never really match. At the end, what I was looking at was not what I had in my head, the idea. But when I touched clay, I could actually reproduce what I was thinking I could, and so it was the medium for me. And, I just kept messing with it on my own. Then I got a break with a toy company that you guys, probably, I mean, they're still in the game, but at this point they were the top of the game, McFarlane and Toys. And they were doing some pretty innovative things back then. Like they were making sculptures, not toys. And there was a big difference there. These things were statues. They were like detailed. And, before that, toys, they looked like something disposable, something simple, but McFarlane was like killing it, doing like really detailed mini statues. The only thing is they were casted in plastic, but they would be as detailed as anything that was considered a figurine or a sculpture. So that was pretty cool, because I got to start at a place where there was like a really high demand for detail and the subject matter was all over the place. You know, like they were doing
Yeah. McFarlane was into everything.
everything, right? Like they had their Spawn line, but they had movie maniacs. They were doing some anime stuff, believe it or not, like when I started there, it's Ghost in the Shell. We were doing uh, a ton of different things. I can't even, like a lot of them. Oh, then we started doing the sports stuff, of course. But the cool thing about getting a start there, like that was school for me, really. So here I am working on this like super detailed stuff, and for about 2 years, and a good friend of mine put me up on companies like that were real toy companies, like this one called Toy Biz. Oh, that's cool. And yeah, I miss those clay days. I guess we'll get into that, but yeah. So this company, it was so different because I was working on sculptures that we kind of like just cut it up and then we called it articulation, right? But it wasn't really articulation. You know what I'm talking about? Like you
Right.
twist the arm and he looks like his arm is broken. It wasn't really articulation. It was actually a neat little trick. If you cut up the figure like that, it's easier to manufacture, and then you might as well put like a swivel joint there, right? So if you cut the arm, you'll call it articulation, but it really is more like a convenience of the process.
Mhm.
But then something like Toy Biz now, like they were making real toys, like so I had to step up my game. I had to learn how to actually articulate figures, that functional articulation. So that was cool. It was like starting all over again. But the detail part and the technique and the process of making a figure, I already had that in the bag. And so I was like 24 years old, 25. And yeah, and then I got my break. And then that's, the next chapter of things.
That's cool, man. Someone in the chat said, so every collector probably has something that you've had your hand in,
Oh, wow.
whether they know it or not. So were you like a huge comic guy before you
Yeah.
got into McFarlane and Toy Biz and all that?
So the funny thing is I'm about to disappoint a lot of people because I loved comics, right?
Mhm.
But I was such a like street kid, right? Like I was always outside running around, breakdancing, doing, skateboarding. Like I was on the street. But I used to love the artwork. I mean, like, so if we were taking a break and going into a store and looking at magazines and comics, I was pulling out like Punisher and the Hulk, of course, and any kind of like, character that was super muscular. And I was just like into it. Like I was into anatomy always. And I just wanted to replicate that artwork, So these are these beautiful illustrations, And then I was like, I just want to draw like that. Like the storyline, I was like completely clueless. Like I got my education in the comic world was when I started to actually make the stuff. And then I was working alongside of like super talented guys like Amos Hemsley and a good friend of mine, Louis Ojeda, who actually put me up on the comic, like the world of comics, right? Like the storylines and stuff, the universe of this comic world. And so like the thing is that like I was like I felt like I was like out of it, but I think that in a way it kind of helped me, right? Because when I started working for Toy Biz, I was like soaking it all up. I was like I was working alongside with Jesse Falcon and Damon Nee, and these guys would like give me a job and they would tell me the story of this character, like, oh, this is Wolverine's origin story, and he's this and that. And so it was cool because my slate was like blank, like
Mhm.
so through that I was kind of coming up with my own thing, and they were cool enough to like allow me to do that, because that's a rare thing too. And so in that process, I mean, I came to it late, really late. But I did love comics from the get, because I grew up with, the Turtles and, definitely Transformers and all that stuff. But it was more for the aesthetics.
That's cool. What was the first Toy Biz line for you?
The very
If you
first
recall.
job that I got at Toy Biz was actually a Lord of the Rings figure. an orc, because
Ooh.
it was crazy because it was all about being at the right place at in the right time. But they just acquired the license to do the Lord of the Rings figures, and
Recently bought a Gandalf. I don't know where it is.
oh, yeah.
2001. It was.
Ah,
I just bought a Gandalf the Grey,
okay.
and I looked at the copyright year. It said 2001, and I'm like, damn, that's 20 years ago.
Yep, that's the timeline, man. That was about the time that I was starting to work with those guys, because I think I started with them in 2000, and they just got that license. So the product would have come out that year after.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's perfect timing right there. But the figure they gave me was an orc, and it was Damon Nees. He had the project. He was the project manager and the art director for that line. And it was like my first chance to show them what I can do, and it was the perfect job. Like, I feel like I was blessed. Yeah, that's one of those guys from that line. And I feel like I was really lucky in so many ways because like to come in on a character like, say, the cave troll, like those are dream jobs. You can go crazy with the texture, and it's a monster, it's a creature. Like, for me, like my strong suit, I think, was always like muscles and creatures, like that. If you combine the two, then so that's pretty much what these creatures, these characters were.
Mm-hmm.
So I was coming into that, and I was like, so like is this for real? Like, I'll get paid to make this kind of character, and it was the same thing at McFarlane. We were doing these wacky characters, and I was like, I just couldn't believe that this was my job. And I still
Right.
have that feeling, like what, almost 25 years later, I still feel like, I got the best gig.
Yeah, it's totally an envious job, man. To
Yeah.
I have no artistic talent, I don't think, but just seeing the
Oh,
stuff.
I've seen your photography. I
Does
mean,
that count?
yeah, it counts, man. You did offer to come here and shoot some stuff, though.
Yeah. So, not to be creepy, but let's be creepy for a second. I was trying to make a thumbnail for the YouTube video, and I'm like, let's get a picture of Dave, and I'm like, all of these photos on Google are, I don't know, maybe a little bit older or
Horrible.
pixelated.
Right.
Well, I'm trying to be nice. So I'm like, yeah, man, I gotta get down there and get some portraits for you. You
I could use
do
that.
update some on your site, put them on your site if you want, put them on your socials. I'm down. Next time I'm in New York, hopefully the studio looks amazing.
Yeah, thank you, man. Like, I just want to say a little bit about that. Like, it's like this is my office. This little smaller space, but next time we'll get a good shot of the other 1,500 square feet. There's a ton of things out there, but this is the world that I'm immersed in, right? So, you know how it is with your shelves. I'm sure there's days that you kind of like walk past it, you don't even notice it. It kind of becomes just like wallpaper at some point. And I hate to say that because, I love each and every piece, but the thing is that, a good friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, the guy that's posted most of my stuff on Instagram, he was like, we got to document this stuff. You got so much stuff. And like, it didn't really dawn on me because this is, like I said, it's everyday stuff. And, some figures, it's 100% me. These days, sometimes it's 10% me because, I've always, through the years, I've had great guys that are coming on and, worked with me. And currently I have like such a strong crew, it's only really like 3 or 4 of us. And, Juan Ramos and Heather Pernack and, Sarah Cohen Cross. So it's like, it's a small crew, but we're like super efficient, And so anyway, my point is that like there's thousands of figures, man. And it's like, how do you ever really like get it all down? So anyway, my friend was like, let's shoot these videos of it. And it was a great idea because now like this archive, like I'm so happy to do this. I love talking about these figures. I love showing, like, doing what we're doing now, giving a little bit of the history because, there's so many stories. Like each figure was like, maybe you could equate that to a month of time. Like it took about a month to do a figure in clay. It's a lot quicker now in digital. But so like in a month, like there's an entire like, month of my life, and people that were in the studio at that time, are encapsulated in that figure. So when I look at it, it's the rush of memories, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So, going down memory lane, I'm not like such a sentimental person like that, I don't think, but this kind of, brings me to a cool place, that I'm happy to be there now,
You've been, like you said, in it for 20 some odd years. Some of that stuff you walk by every day. I get it. But for myself, fans, people watching, it's like I said, it's kind of like a museum, right? These are, you have things there from the past. There are new collectors who don't know about these things, right? They didn't know, as silly as it sounds, it's like the toys that came before, like it's this huge grand thing. I know it's just toys, but it's still interesting, and
No,
people
it is.
still are intrigued to see some of that stuff, and you have it. And should you choose to share it with the world, like you said, document it, a little bit of video here. I like you showing the prototypes on IG for a little bit, seeing all that stuff. It's cool to see what came before, and
Yeah,
what stuff influenced a lot of the stuff.
and I love that there's an appreciation for that. Like, because in some ways, things do come and go, and there's like newer, better ones, right? Like the Marvel Legends now look amazing. It's like I looked at your review of the Wolverine, and I'm like, man, that's a gorgeous figure. It's like everything is like perfectly working right. The articulation's in the right place, and all that stuff. But man, we were like stumbling through all that stuff. Like there was Phil Ramirez on the West Coast, and I was here on the East Coast, and we had this beautiful friendly rivalry, and like trying to like up each other, and we were just kind of like raising the bar, and we were like figuring this stuff out along the way. So it's like lat articulation. It's like, oh man, like it would be cool if he can fold his arms forward, and there was no like reference, so we were like, how do we do that? And then you could see my early work was horrible because I had the pin in the front, and if you see these figures, they'd hinge out, and you got a big gap in the back, and it was just placement of the pin, but it was like, fortunately we had the opportunity to learn on the job, right? We were getting paid to figure this stuff out, but it was really like, I'm sure there were figures that were out there like overseas that have, Japan and China, that they already kind of had these things going. But as far as the States go, this stuff was not, in figures at the time, so it was nice that like there was this progression. Like, so if you look at the first one for me was Iron Man, and it was a cool figure. And the way like my workflow, I'll just kind of get into that a little bit. It's like I would sculpt the entire figure like a statue, like no articulation. I'd just sculpt the whole thing, and I'd finish it, and then I'd actually take that and mold it and cast the solid figure in resin, and then go in and cut the whole thing up to articulate. It was insane, but I felt like I loved the uninterrupted figure, the statue of it. And I wanted to somehow document that. So then at that time it was a mold. And I have a lot of those molds where it's just the full figure, no articulation. And then when I would articulate it, he'd all of a sudden like grow another freaking quarter inch everywhere. So a lot of my older figures had super long arms, Right. But like the first one without articulation was perfectly proportioned. And then it's like, oh, I cut it up and I had to fit some double elbows and stuff like that. And next thing you know, so those mistakes, I mean, I love to see them now, because now you have the computer, you don't have to make mistakes now. And then plus you have this huge library of figures that have come before where they've kind of figured out all those things. So if you got a nice collection and you're getting into this stuff, you got everything you need right there in front of you of how to succeed with it,
Well, that's what I mean a little bit about modern toys, right? You yourself and a lot of other people who made earlier stuff, trying out new articulation, things that worked, things that didn't work, all show people down the line like, okay, this didn't work before, or something like this, we can modify that. So it's all history, part of this hobby that we all love here. So definitely, you have a really cool studio there, and it looks clean and non-cluttered, and you got like these
Oh
nice
man.
shelves and everything
Oh
displayed.
yeah. Well, really?
So
Are you
yeah, I
talking
think
about
it
this
looks
space or like in the Instagram videos?
well.
Because it looks
Whatever,
to me
whatever.
deceiving.
The meme Instagram versus real life, right? So
Yeah,
what I only see what's on socials.
yeah. Because it's like, I mean, for the most part, it is a pretty, well kept studio, which is funny because with digital, like you really just need, the equipment for digital these days is a computer and a printer, a 3D printer. If you actually offer that, service of like printing and painting, which we do. But back in the day, man, your clay was all over the place. Like it was on your seat, it was on the floor. It was horrible, man. It was like, and it was part of the game. And like the other thing was the
You
the
sound like
mold.
the makings of a supervillain.
Yeah,
Clay
exactly
was
right.
everywhere.
Yeah, right. Traumatized, right? But and then it's like you also had the chemicals, right? You had resin, you had silicone, and you're constantly dealing with all this stuff, and so it's kind of good that I did. I'm happy that I started that way, but I'm also happy that we have a better way of working, because um, it's as far as your lungs and your health, it's really not sustainable. You know what I mean? I mean, not to say that because there's resin in the printers and we still deal with some kind of materials, but there's less of it. I should say.
Yeah, you need ventilation for those resin printers.
Absolutely. And painting, right? Like you're
Mhm.
airbrushing and like before I started to sculpt, I was actually painting with oils, and I mean I was just painting canvases and stuff. And I used to paint in a tiny room with no, airflow. And
Oh
I'd be
no.
like, oh man, at the end of the day, like, why does my stomach hurt? Like, why do I have a headache? And not realizing that I'm inhaling oil paints all day. So it's kind of crazy, like the stuff you do because you're so into it, right? You're just so excited to work. You're not really thinking of all those other things. And I mean, that's a great place to be, where it's
Yeah, man,
just
you're
the work.
in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Torensu says, legit, those Marvel Legend figs back in the day had more detail and paint apps than they do now.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah.
There are a lot of very intricate paint decos on some of that Toy Biz stuff. You see, like some of the
Yeah.
black washes, the different layerings of paint.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. They went all out. Like a lot of times they'll use a lot of, material, color, and, one paint op because, it's got to be cost effective. But man, they went all out in Toy Biz days. Yeah. And also with articulation, like they were all about like, hey, let's put, individual fingers. It's just
Yeah,
at some point it's just insane because it doesn't work right. But man, we tried it all. There was never a limitation. That's for sure. There was no like, hey, do everything, but don't do, these 5 points. Or it was like if you could fit it in, let's do it. And then we'll maybe take it out later if it doesn't work. But most times it went through. Like,
that's so cool.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Like,
want to talk a little bit more about this stuff, and then later on, kind of talk like move into the transition into modern day toys and digital sculpting and all that stuff. Uh,
sure.
but like let's wrap up some of the Toy Biz stuff on its own volition. Do you have anything you want to open,
I actually don't. I mean, I have something that I like to
or something like
share, but
you want to
yeah, but like you
show
could
us?
do the opening first, and then I'll show you some stuff that I don't know if people have seen yet, and it's kind of cool.
That's just as good.
Yeah, I don't have a. I mean, unfortunately, I opened these things up like a month ago, but I should have held off. But
That's all good.
yeah, but if you want to start unboxing yours, what do you got there anyway?
This is a Plunderlings Zombone.
Oh, oh, that's
Uh,
cool.
the homie DK got this for me for Christmas,
Oh, that's
but I
awesome.
have a serious problem with buying toys, and I'm just getting to it January 27th. So Plunderlings, independent toy company that came out last year. A lot of really cool stuff, and they've shown a lot of um, more designs coming out in the future. Have you seen
I
these
love the
before?
package, man. Could I see the all sides? Because you got the feet at the bottom of that box.
All right. So what I love about Plunderlings, like you noticed, the packaging. So you have the face on the front, right?
Yeah.
You have the feet on the bottom. Inside the box, there are actually ears that are the same
Oh,
shape as his, and there are slots on the side, so you can actually
oh,
stick them into the box, and you have a Plunderlings shaped box. And
that's really
this is
cool.
just, yeah, it's just crazy to see. Like if you saw this on a shelf, it's pretty much different from almost everything you see out there. Like this is a retail store kind of product, but it definitely sets itself apart. So I do love that.
I love the effort in package design like that. Like utilizing the package as something, because let's face it, we're going to keep it. Most times we're buying a couple of them and opening one. So it's awesome that there's so much thought is put into that package.
There's even I keep forgetting to check this out. There's an image on the back, but if you download, I think they have an app or some special app where you scan it with your phone. I think it takes you to the website. It shows you like an animation of the character.
Wow.
That's the one that's on your box. So it's all pretty game changing. New stuff for this. So really digging this line so far.
Yeah, that's they're covering all angles with that. That's really cool. You got the 3D component, got the package. Like it's pretty much like what people need to be doing now when they put out stuff. It's no longer just a figure. You gotta up it.
Yeah, you have to differentiate yourself and
Yeah.
catch the. Hey, you know how many toy companies are vying for your money? You get a finite amount of money
Right.
to spend for everything. You can't buy everything. So like it's you got to stand out in the consumer's mind and really wow them and be like, okay, you get my money this week and you get my money this month and I pre-order and all this stuff. So this stuff I think all factors in.
And how many figures are in that line? Is it just that like you said as a couple, right?
I'd say 12 different
Oh wow, 12.
characters. It started off as a Kickstarter, and
Hmm.
then that one was successful. They sent everything out. Uh, Figures are fantastic. I got an early test shot of it because I did some apparel with them as well. So I got a test shot to do for reference for shirts. Um, and that one was already incredible quality when I got it. And then they have all these now. They're available BBTS,
Hmm.
online retailers. So really cool success story for like an independent toy line for something that's
Yeah.
it's not like based on your nostalgia. It's like original kind of character, original IP.
I'm all about that, man. I love when people are just, come on, we got these staple characters. They're always going to be here, right? You got your Hulks and your Wolverine, but we need to have some new characters, man. And, it's tough. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. It's tough when you're coming up with an original design because, you're competing with all these, well established characters, you know, but I love that they're, you know, going there.
We have a message for you from a Mr. Ryan Ting.
Yeah.
It says, Dave, thank you and the early 2000s Toy Biz crew for your artistry and revolutionizing of the modern action figure. You all set a high standard that still inspires today.
Wow, that's awesome. Well,
Uh,
thank you, man. That's
People in the
awesome
chat
compliment.
agree.
Yeah, very cool, man. Thanks for appreciating these things.
What's one of the craziest figures that stood out to you
Um,
that you've in the old days, either
yeah,
McFarlane or Toy Biz?
yeah. I mean, I guess I talked a little bit about McFarlane. I could name those, but and then we talked about Toy Biz. But man, I at that time I was working for everybody. NECA, DC, Mattel, Hasbro, a little bit, But then there's my journey with Mezco Toys was an awesome one too. So side by side, Toy Biz, I was working on a ton of stuff for Mezco, and Mez, the owner and founder of Mezco Toys, like he was all about making the coolest figures, and he was willing to go in there and pay for that premium figure, those whatever it took to make something stand out, which is awesome to work with a company like that. And so I worked on like the Gangsters line, the Scarface figures, and of course all the Hellboy stuff. And I got to say that the Hellboy stuff is way up there. Like, that's why it's here next to me along with the, but then it's hard to say because I look over and I forget that, there's the 67-point articulated Spider-Man. And then there's, Hulkbuster back there. And then there's a ton in the hallway. But the Hellboy is special, like for more than just the, and once again, it was one of those things that completely unaware of Mike Mignola and the Hellboy series. But when I was offered the job by Mez, I did my homework and I was going to San Diego that year and I bought the graphic novels and I read them on the plane and I was completely, immersed in this Hellboy world. And I love the illustrations. Like it really, that kind of graphic style of illustration appeals to me more than most of the artwork. And the colors and just the wacky characters. And then here, the challenge was like, can you make a figure that looks like Mignola's artwork? Like, because my thing is that you get an awesome artist, and then your job now is not to reinvent, like the art style. It's to preserve what the artist did, and then almost like just it's going from 2D to 3D. So there's a lot of interpretation there, but it doesn't need my input as far as like changing the shape of Hellboy's head or his. All I had to do was make it look like the artwork, but in 3D. So that project was pretty much put in my hands and was like, make it work. And I feel like it's a special one because of so many reasons. And then meeting Mike Mignola and, being actually a fan of the artwork, the comic series. And, so that stands out as one of them. But there's many. I mean, it's hard to say that and not, like think of other projects that were also impactful in my journey.
Nice. I like the Scarface ones. It's when you think about Mezco now, everyone's all like Mezco, the 112 Collective, soft goods, that kind of. Well, I guess in this channel's sphere, like people in this community, the 112 scale, maybe some of the other stuff they do, but to think about Mezco stuff from back, I think they did Heroes TV show figures too.
I did those, yeah.
That was you too?
Did those. I forgot about those, but yeah, we did that. And it was only like, I think we did 3 or 4 characters. And there was like 3 versions of the main character, right? Which I forgot his name. Was it Hero? No.
Hero was the Japanese dude. He had a sword.
Yes.
And then there's like Peter Petrelli and all the other characters.
I think we only did 3 of them, but they were like 3 versions of Hero. So there was like, because they were posed. They were articulated, but they were in poses. So we did like the straight up incognito version, and then we did the fight stance version. But Mezco, they did, we did Goonies for them. Like they had a whole career before the 112 stuff, which the 112 stuff is amazing. Because for me, like Mezco Toys is one of those companies, like there was a lot of smaller companies that came and went during that whole time. Like, they couldn't survive. They didn't adapt. But Mezco Toys was like reinventing all the time. Mez, he was very, he had his, the thing it's these companies that are just like dedicated to making cool product, and then it just changes the game. And that's pretty much the trend with all these companies that set the stage for, like, the stuff now is awesome. And again, now I'm working for Jazzwares and they're doing the same thing. Like, trying, we did 6-inch line, a 4-inch line. I mean, we did some crazy off-scale stuff, like sometimes an 18-inch figure. But then now we're doing this 2.5-inch line. It's just tiny, and there's a ton of articulation. And actually, that's what I wanted to show you. But like, I don't know if you saw these guys, but check this out. Like, here's a little mini Peely. He's only like 2 1/4, I think, something like that.
There's a 2 1/4 line?
Yeah, 2 1/4.
My goodness.
And it's cool because they've got a ton of articulation, wrist and elbow and ball joint shoulders, ball joint hips. And they're beautiful little figures, So there's a couple of them here. I guess they're out now. But these guys are really amazing, man. I'm amazed that something so small could be so tight. Like, it's a little hard to see, but these guys are really sharp.
If you put your other hand behind it, it'll focus better.
Oh, thank you, man. To see these, that's a great tip, man. See if I could. Maybe my camera is kind of crappy, so there we go. Maybe that's a little bit better. But yeah, these little guys are pretty amazing. They're tiny, and like they're starting to hit the shelves now. And if you're a fan of the Fortnite stuff, I mean, like, can you imagine? Like, so this guy, like when I saw this guy, I was like, wow, because we did him in 4 and 6 inches. So you got all these toy photographers now that do some amazing scenes, and they set up. Imagine like shooting the 6-inch figure in a scene, but then you can pull out and do like a perspective shot with this tiny guy because he looks exactly like the other guy. And it's just now your set is huge and you got this little so I'm always thinking about the playability, play factor with these guys. And so this line is I haven't seen anybody do a tiny figure like this, and I mean, like, the joints aren't falling apart, because I've seen some small figures that look amazing, but you start to move them, everything's falling apart. These things are solid, so but anyway, going back, I kind of went off on a tangent with this stuff. I got a little excited with these figures.
It's all toys, man. It's all good.
Yeah, this is what it does, man. We become kids, and we should always have that, right? But the companies that go out there and go for this, like uncharted territory. I've been fortunate to be around a lot of those companies, going back to McFarlane, Mezco, Toy Biz at that time. Yeah.
Mezco is pretty local to. Are they in New York, or is it?
Yeah, they're actually. I mean, last I knew, they were in Long Island City, I believe. So, which is Queens technically. So, it's pretty close by.
I just assume if everything's in the same state, it's like a 10-15 minute drive. I only know everything from movies and rap music and Spider-Man video games.
Well, then that's,
over everything
Spider-Man, Queens. So, and then now they made, Cap in Brooklyn, but I mean, there was some uproar about that stuff. Does that
mean Long Island City?
Yeah, Long Island City. Yeah,
20
that's
minutes
cool
from Trevor.
All right.
Yeah, there's a statue, a Cap statue.
Yeah, the Cap statue. This guy, this is in Brooklyn. This is not too far from my studio. It's about 7-8 blocks, maybe a little more than that, like 10 blocks away. But the this became like a 13-foot tall bronze statue, which is pretty cool because like this project. I mean, actually, let me hold this up here. This was celebrating the 70th.
You got to hold it up like you just won the championship, man.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, this is kind of like super early, man. I mean, like, how this came about is because a company wanted to make these pieces here and some medium scale. I mean, I don't know, like 2 foot tall scale pieces in pewter. Something like that. And then they made one large bronze, and the idea was that they were going to tour it around the States. Like, it was going to go from state to state and then exhibit there for a while, and then they'll move it around and stuff like that. Never happened. It came to Brooklyn. It made like 3 or 4 stops, I think. And then it settled in this place called Liberty Plaza. And I think people were I thought people were just like amazed that, wow, we can have like a Captain America bronze statue. Like, they weren't really thinking, you might see this in like Disney World or something like that, but just as an actual monument, it's a pretty cool thing. And then shortly after this, because it's kind of hidden away, unfortunately, I wish it was out in a public space. So if you're in Brooklyn and you want to find it, you can find it's at Liberty Plaza. So it's the inside. It's a lobby of a mini mall, unfortunately. But anyway, the idea was pretty awesome. I think it should have been outside somewhere so that people can gather around and take photographs and stuff like that. The cool thing is that yeah, there we go. That was when it debuted in Prospect Park, which is I grew up hanging out in Prospect Park. That was like my backyard basically. Oh yeah, there's the mayor, Eric Adams, like cutting the ribbon. He's now the mayor. At the time, he was the borough president. And I heard he was instrumental in making this thing happen. Like he was. I heard that he was a fan of like this stuff growing up too.
That's very cool.
But you know what so you saw that little sneak peek that we were playing earlier of the clay model, and it was Spider-Man that I was doing. So the reason why I'm doing that is because I've recently been approached by someone who is adamant about making a Spider-Man statue in Queens, but doing it right, meaning like get a public space, like get community support, have a designated public space for this thing. And it'll be a bronze statue of Spider-Man in Forest Hills, Queens. And, they contacted me, and I was like, you know what? I love the idea. I would be all over this. Let's make it happen. So now we're in the works. We're trying to this is actually a real thing we're trying to do. I feel like this guy is the right person behind this, project, as far as like getting approvals and then I think that, it's up to you guys. Like, we need some people to show that maybe this is a good idea. I mean, like maybe I'm a little romantic about it, but I think that, look, if you had like a statue in Queens and, we grew up with this stuff. And then most of these people have kids that are now into this stuff. Like how cool it would be to go there and take photos. And, it's a cool thing of like passing the torch to like the comic
the statue.
Torch. Yeah.
It's going to outlast you and stay there for the next generations to come.
Yeah.
What do you need us to do? What do you need everyone in the chat to do?
So
There's
like,
apparently a lot of New Yorkers here. Who do we need to you want to petition? You want us to just show some love, show some support?
Yeah. So you know what? Like the thing is, I mean, this is all new. Like I actually didn't even really like think I would be getting into this right now. But I mean, look, hey, let's talk about it. This little sketch. This is not going to be the pose, of course. Like my thing is like I want to get into the mindset of Spidey, right? Like I want to get into this, and I decided let me approach this thing like how I would have, like if I knew what the project is. Like I'm going to do my clay models. I'm going to try different ones. I figure 4 different poses. And then I want to, get people involved and like, chime in, see like, what should he be in this pose? I want this to be the people's, like choice sculpture, not something that, this is like, I mean, there's limits to that, of course, I'm going to do some sketches and then present that. And then, but the idea is that, ultimately like, let me backtrack a little bit. Like when the Captain America thing, I'm all over the place. When the Captain America thing was happening, it was like, people weren't too happy about it, believe it or not, because,
Really?
It's tied to this corporate thing, right? This corporate entity of Disney. So like they felt like, oh, we put this in the, are we like, branding this Disney Plaza, whatever, this and that. But the thing is it's not about that. Like, comics and these characters, this was created before any of these things, like, so this is just about like having something that means something, to us and being able to go there and check it out. And, I mean, he's from Queens. They're not making that part up. You know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy. But anyway, there's multi levels of approval for this thing. And so we're working with the community board and trying to get, approvals for sites and stuff. And that takes time. But I think that when people are involved, like the people that want to see this happen, it helps. So I think that when the time is right, this is, like I said, this is super early. It's very premature. But I think that maybe we can, find a way to just show support for a project like this, and it's as simple as that. You know what I mean?
There are a lot of people in the chat right now who would be down for this. NYC Figure Fanatic says, man, I'm so down for a Spider-Man statue to bring the kids to. That would be amazing. Yeah, man, that would be cool.
I think so, man. Yeah.
All right. Here's this thing. I'm gonna switch this around real quick. All right, so
cool.
Crazy part is,
wait, it's nice articulation. I thought it was just like a vinyl.
No, this is fully articulated. Like, look at the range on this.
Wow, that's really good, man.
Right. I think these are all hand painted, though.
That's awesome.
Torso.
That's a good torso articulation too.
Yeah, it gets a lot of range in there.
Oh, and you got a nice swivel on the elbow too.
Up there, you get different hands. Weapon swap. Where's the other hand? Other piece.
Ball joint hips.
It's just these one here. It doesn't really have. Well, it has a swivel here.
Oh, nice. On the waist, right? Okay.
Yeah, on the waist. 3 heads that you can swap. Different expressions. You have accessories that you can pop on.
That's cool. That's excellent, man. I mean, I'm a fan of the 2-color thing too. Like, I think that you almost get to just focus on the detail and the shapes, rather than getting distracted by all this color. Oh, there is a color one. That color's slick too, though.
Yeah, all sorts of different ones. I think you can swap the accessories around within the line. You can use weapons from Mythic Legions, other brands, and just make them. They're this size. They're fun. They're fun just to look at.
What is that like? That's like 5-inch, 4 or 5-inch.
Not even. This is like 3. Oh. This is 3. Yeah, 3-inch. 4 maybe with the hair. So it's really cool stuff. But Jazzwares has the Fortnite stuff. There's a guy called Mancakes.
Yeah.
His face is a stack of pancakes.
We did a few of those characters. Yeah, there's like a 4-inch. There's actually a 2-inch of Mancakes coming out too.
Nice.
They have the best character designs. The Fortnite stuff, like, they're so fun.
Isn't it perfect for toys?
Oh my god, it's so and they're so wacky. And the other thing is, like, the original line that we did, the 6-inch line. Like, if you look at the game, like, they're all about these goofy faces and stuff like that. And then we were like, you know what? Let's make interchangeable faces, because that's something you don't see too much in the States either.
No.
And it worked perfect for it. Because it was like you could stage a character and have the surprise face. But then the other added feature was that you can swap the faces between characters, so you can put anybody's face on Jonesy or vice versa, if they had the same plug, which most of them did. And unfortunately, I didn't see too many people doing that. Yeah, it's weird. Actually, I have something here. This is strange, but you have, she's got, I forgot whose face is this, but this is what it looked like, where when you pop it off, it had this plug. And, I don't know if you can see it. Sorry, I'm not even looking at the camera. But there's this plug here, this common plug. Right. And here's the inside of the back of the head here. And so this is, I forgot if this is Havoc. I forgot who this guy was. But he's just like popped out to her body. So you could do anything, really. It was like, but I didn't see too many people messing around with that stuff, which surprised me, because it really changed. I mean, I thought it was pretty unique, and I don't think you'll see that too often in these 6-inch figures, at least from the States, But that was, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with, but Hasbro has the 6-inch line for Fortnite now. So we're only doing 4 and 2. Oh, I lost the audio. I think you're mute.
I'm new to YouTubing. I think
Well,
McFarlane had
figure it happened to me at some point.
McFarlane and Jazzwares had it at the same time.
Yep.
But I
Very
think
strange.
the play factor, I think in general people prefer the Jazzwares one.
Yeah, I think we were going for that. Like, let's not try to be too serious about it. Like let's make it as fun as the game is. Like these characters are goofy. Like let's be goofy with it. Let's try to make it so that you want to, stage different scenarios and stuff like that. But I think Jazzwares did an awesome job with it. And we're bringing that down anyway to the 2-inch anyway. So and it kind of allows for other things. Who knows what you'll see with this scale?
Interesting. And you guys had weapons packs too, which
Oh man. Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic idea.
There was a ton of them. Yeah.
In Canada, they weren't even really at retail. Like one small specialty shop got them from like a, I don't know, clearance place, and that's the only time that I found it. The weapons, they're Fortnite style video game aesthetic, a little bit cartoony, but some of them look pretty good. And I would be down for more weapons packs. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, and they were, they're from what I heard, the approach with the weapons in the game was that the weapons were characters, because like they were, they were like stylized and they had these cool shapes and stuff like that. And like you said, some of them are a little bit more like straight up realistic, but yeah. Oh, the old site. You're gonna have to forgive me because I never update this damn thing. It's so old, but at this point, I'm like abandoning it.
It's all good
Instagram is
because
fine.
this stuff is all in the past anyway, and
Yeah.
it feels like in general the artist wants to focus on the art and like the business stuff, the website stuff. Get somebody to do it. Get somebody to do it. Right?
Yeah.
You want to focus on creating.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool because sometimes like I'll use this as like just a reminder because I'll forget like, oh, there's this character. But yeah, Black Panther, man, that was one of my favorite characters, because his body was so unique, in the proportions, and they let it fly. I was like, oh wow, okay, because I was like, I want to give him like a weird chest and tiny waist and exaggerate him. And they were
Super
cool.
detailed.
Yeah, you had all the wrinkles from the suit, and it was like this skin tight, latex or whatever it is. Yeah, I think he still holds up.
These stood out, and
and we use
especially
that
for their
body
time.
a lot. Like we used it for quite a bit of figures.
Was there a lot of focus on that kind of stuff? Because
Well,
if you look at McFarlane stuff now, almost every new toy is like a new sculpt, which is crazy to see.
Yeah. Well, you know what? At the time, they were producing, like so much. Where I was one guy, and there was like 4 or 5. There was, Phil Ramirez, Steve Kiwis, Gentle Giant, and some other guys working on stuff. And I was doing like, I don't know, like sometimes like 7 figures a month or 8 figures. It was an insane amount of figures. And so, at some point, like the reusing the body and stuff, as long as we could, still make it look cool, it became an option because it was just so much demand.
There's some of the finger articulation that you referred to earlier.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, this figure, in so many ways, because this figure was like, of course, this is all clay. And, like the detail of the mesh, like when that Spider-Man movie came out, it was like, I was kind of horrified because he had this tiny like brick pattern all over. Like all the blue area had this brick pattern. I was like, how am I going to do that? Again, this is by hand. So I was like, like the only thing I can think of was like, I'm going to sculpt the body and then wrap this thing around it. But then what do you find that has a brick pattern that's tiny like that? There's nothing. So the idea that I had was like, you know, the window screen, you know, to keep bugs out.
Yeah, your screen
So,
door.
you know,
mesh.
that's a grid. It's just like the grid on our shirts. But I was looking at it, I was like, you know, it's the right scale. And if I could pay my sister to sit there and cut out every other one. Yeah, I was pretty messed up, right? And then I paid her though. And then
Right.
so she sat there for weeks. Well, maybe it was about weeks. And she cut out a giant, you know, like sheet where every other little, you know, uh, part of the mesh was cut away with an X-Acto knife. She's sitting there just cutting every other one. And then I took that and I basically cut like clothing patterns, you know, like I cut out a piece for the thigh and make sure that the seam is on the sides. And then I stretched it over the clay after, you know, all the musculature was sculpted. And I just used crazy glue over the entire thing and then just wiped it off, and it just like bonded to the clay. It was insane. And it actually worked. And when I did, I think the thighs were the first pieces I did. And I was like, wow, this will work. So then I just like carried that out like to the knees and to the shins and to the stomach and back. And then I, you know, dripped wax over that to sculpt the webbing. Because of course, not, you know, they made it super hard. They made the freaking brick pattern and then the webbing was raised. I was like, oh my God. You know, if the webbing was scribed, that would be a lot easier, but it was raised. So I had to sit there with a wax pen and basically draw the webbing and then go back with a sculpting tool and sharpen up the edges and then go back with the wax and add more. But amazingly, this figure only took a month too. Like I was locked to my seat, and it was pretty insane. And then, you know, of course, look at the scale. I mean, you guys know this figure, but he's massive, you know? So it's like, and then the craziest thing is that this dude ends up at some point, I remember at Toys R Us, I'll never forget, Times Square. It was the biggest, it was like the flagship store in New York. And I'm going there just, you know, as we always did, looking for reference and buying toys. And these things were in a bin, a giant bin, and in the box, brand new, and they were $17. I mean, can you imagine that? Look at like 67 points of articulation and an 18-inch tall figure selling for $17. That's insane, man.
Did you scoop them all up?
Of course, man. I probably bought like 10 of them. Nice. And then over the years, I gave them away because, you know, it was a nice gift. And then I regretted that, of course. I have like 2 in the box. I have 3 of them outside, 2 in the box in storage, and then I have the original prototype, like the one that I described with the mesh. I have that still. Like I had to save that because I was like, you know, I need to document that. And then I have the molds. Actually, I still have the original molds of this guy. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's just a crazy project, but I was happy to be a part of it. You know, it's like a crazy milestone project. 67-point Spider-Man.
Yeah, Torrensu says, how much are those on eBay now? I think it's something stupid. It's definitely not $17.
Oh man, I should have bought like a truckload of them. It would have been like
you just have to rescue it.
What's that?
Sometimes I see like comics at the dollar store or like in a bin somewhere, and you're like, I gotta rescue it, give it a good home, give it to something, right? So,
well, that's how I felt about that when I saw him in the bin so cheap. I felt like, man, is this a failure? Like, why is this so cheap? Like, but it was just that they produced
that's not on you.
many. Yeah, and they produced so many. You know, I think this was like a crazy number. I wouldn't even know because I'm not part of that side. But it was like nearly a million, you know, copies that were produced of this figure, which is insane. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's not even a high number compared to what they do now. But at the time, it was for a big figure like that.
I think stuff like this, dude, you know, telling the story of how are you gonna find this pattern, finding the texture, getting, you know, doing an art book. You have all the stuff there. And just like pictures, a little story on the side. I would love to see something like that. I think a lot of people would be interested. It's just a crazy story to
I
even. I
love
mean,
that.
even you say it's a lot of work to put in.
Yeah, I love that idea. I'm not organized enough, but I'm totally into it. Like I got all the stuff. So if you want to make it happen, we got the work there. I saved enough stuff. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's the
again,
Mezco. It's
yeah.
the gangsters. People must like not know about this history at all, right? From Mezco Toys.
Some
It's so
there are a
different.
few out there. Like
Yeah.
my friend, the toy page, I think has. He's a huge Mezco dude. He probably goes back and gets stuff too. This
Nice.
stuff, I'm sure some people are aware. And I mean, even for me, I stopped collecting toys for a long time
Oh yeah.
until one day I'm like, I need to build the Sentinel. I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna start with this piece. But we're
Really?
gonna get to the Sentinel in a second. That
Oh yeah.
deserves
Yeah.
all of its own attention.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to show people some of this cool stuff real quick.
And
Uh,
also, I mean, actually, the Sentinels how we met. You sent me this awesome shirt. This is my
yeah,
favorite shirt, by the way. And wherever I go, it's like people, they're like, "Where'd you get that shirt, man?" And I'm always saying, "Dude, toy." Dude, they love this figure. I mean, this design with the grid. Like, and I love it too because it's just I don't know the simplicity of it and the black and white and and when you showed me, I was like, "Oh man, that's cool, man," because like it's connected to my figure, but it's its own thing, and you brought me back, man. You got me thinking about the Sentinel too again. Because, like
hey,
I said, sometimes I forget these guys. It's no
this is the
disrespect.
toy that got me into it. A
Yeah,
lot of people love this thing. It's a grail in a lot of people's collections. It's like
right.
250. Trying to find a complete. Um, so you know what? Thank
Wow.
you for this thing.
Yeah, when we
But
when we talk about it, I'll bring that prototype because that's a paint sample there, so it's a little different the color. But we'll get to that later. Yeah, so the gangsters, man, that was such a fun project. I love all this stuff, because this is really my style. Like this was the artwork. Junis Ortiz drew these, and when I saw the artwork, I was like, oh man, I got to sculpt this, because like it just has that rugged look, and oh man, these are the characters that I'd love to like do more of, and I love this line. And then Mez's whole like approach to this was really cool because he had a whole like storyline for these characters.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, classic gangster suits.
yeah, you know. And then of course Scarface.
There's not enough good Scarface
Yeah,
modern stuff out there right
I
now.
know, right?
Maybe it's not as popular.
Well, it was at one point. There was like I
Mhm.
remember it was like 10 years ago. Like all these companies were licensing the Scarface stuff, and they had like 12-inch. This was before Hot Toys. I don't know how long. I don't know how long Hot Toys has been out, but I remember this was. They might have been gone. Wait, this is probably 15 years or 17 years, but I remember there was a big push for like Scarface stuff. I don't know if they just allowed the license finally, and then it
Mm,
just kind of faded away. But these were, and of course I was a huge fan, so I didn't want to touch it because you know how like sometimes you're such a fan of it that you kind of want to
really?
stay away. Yeah, at least for me, I was like, I don't want to mess it up. Like I like this character. It was scary, but at the end of the day, I was like, wait, that's silly, man. I love Scarface, and yeah,
Yeah.
so we had some. There was like different styles. There was the cartoony, it was a realistic. We did a 6-inch with a bunch of like accessories. So there's a bunch of different Scarface stuff.
Yo, Kirby Kai brings up a really good suggestion.
Mm.
Imagine if Mezco did a 112 Tony Montana
Well, I'm
today.
surprised. I'm surprised he didn't actually. Wow, maybe it's coming.
Uh, I would buy all of those. You get Tony, you get Manny,
Yeah,
uh,
man.
Chi-Chi,
Oh
Michelle
yeah.
Pfeiffer.
Oh yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
crazy. You know what? I think Chappelle Show and Scarface are my two most wanted in 112 scale to get
That's
like
interesting. Chappelle. Wow. Who came up with that idea? Like, where'd you hear that? Is that yours?
That's just what I want.
That's cool. That was like all the characters you're saying.
Yeah,
Like
like
the the characters he portrayed. Yeah, man, that's a great one, man. Yeah.
Tyrone, all the different ones on the show, man. I think those would make like a Rick James. Then you got to get like a Rick James
Oh yeah.
estate to sign off on that. So that's probably a lot of stuff to
You're right.
paperwork to get through. But
Yeah, it's
as
not
a
just
fan-
one licensor. Yeah.
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 as a fan, I don't want to have to think about that. It would be cool if I had it.
Yeah.
Scarface stuff. I would be down for that.
Yeah,
The
man.
Cadillac and 1/12 scale too. Oh my god.
Right.
This
No,
stuff.
Yeah.
McFarlane movie
Yeah.
ones.
These are the NECA figures. Yeah.
RFD says Wave 1 is just all Dylon for the Chappelle show.
Right. Dylon, that's cool.
Man, the Kill Bill stuff. All right, like look at this detail and paint.
Yeah, oh well,
insane.
the paints. Oh man, like you see, the thing is, I never painted. Like that
Mhm.
was I did in a crunch, but I would never like talk about that too much because it was always terrible. But the painter for all these figures at that time was Brandy Anderson, man, and she would paint like, look, not every portrait that I sculpted was a hit. A lot of them were misses, but she saves me, man, because a lot of times, think about how like people who are really good with makeup that they can kind of
Mhm.
make another face. Like she would do that. Like my job was to like not screw it up too bad. To kind of put things in place. But when she would paint it, she'd bring the life. And these portraits were like amazing at the scale. This is way before like all these. Like now it's on another level. Like the hot toy stuff, like that's on another level. But I mean, for us, making these like plastic toys the way we always have, like this was kind of up in, like raising the bar, locally for stuff. But then now it's like, it's crazy. Can't even touch that bar.
This is 1/12 scale though.
No, this was actually larger.
It was a statue.
This was no, this was 18 inches, man. This was what's that? Six scale. No,
18 is
quarter
is
scale.
quarter?
Yeah, this was quarter scale. Yeah, he was
Okay,
huge.
because I was gonna say this is a lot of detail.
Oh, that would be
Something
insane.
like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, if this was 1/12, it'd be bananas. But this, I was gonna
But
say
they
this
could do
is
it.
like almost Hot Toys level.
yeah, they could do that now though, which is crazy. But at the time, like I never saw any like 1/12 look this good. So this was larger, and I don't think the production looked like this. These were my paint samples,
Mhm.
but it was pretty good,
Cerebral Deep says if Mezco makes a Scarface, I'll definitely buy. Dragon Eye 69, what's going on? Says, oh my god, a 1/12 Tyrone Biggums, Clayton Bigsby, please, I'd buy all of them.
See, man, you got a great idea right there, man.
I'm an ideas man.
Yeah.
That's as far as it goes.
I know, right? It's like someone else will sweep it up, Yeah, there's the movie Mezco stuff. Yeah, so like with the Mezco Hellboy, sorry. We did all the Hellboy stuff. So it was like the movie line for movies 1 and 2, and then the comic stuff. So it was like a dream gig because like we got to mess with all styles. And this was 1/12 scale. Yeah. And this is before he got into the clothes, of course, because this was all
Right.
like, actually, no, I think he came with a jacket. No, he did come with a jacket. Yeah. So he was already doing, the cloth stuff like way back, so.
He's been dabbling in it.
Yeah.
Hunker Mike, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the show. Says, Dave, did you work on the unreleased NECA Shaw Brothers line?
No, I did not, man. That sounds awesome, though. I didn't
what's
see
Shaw
those
Brothers?
either. Yeah, I didn't see those. I mean, there was a lot of figures that I worked on that didn't get produced, like a Daryl Hannah for Kill Bill, and there was another one, but not the Shaw Brothers line. But sounds awesome.
Kill Bill line still holds up.
Yeah,
What's the master, the martial arts
Yeah.
master? I had him around here.
yeah. I didn't work on him. Are you talking about the what is his name? Because I only worked on the, Oren and oh man, why am I spacing?
Oh, the ones that were
only,
above.
only the female
Okay.
characters. Yeah, I'm just my mind is all right. Yeah, and those were tough, because again, like it's like it's all in the eye of the beholder. Like I was completely unhappy with this likeness for this actress's name that I can't remember.
Uma Thurman.
Thank you. I was completely unhappy with that. I was like, oh my God, you can't show her this. I couldn't nail it. It just was a tough face. And she loved it. And then with Oren, I was happy with it and she hated it. So it just goes to show you, like I was like, oh, this looks cool. And, it didn't get approved. And so they never produced that one, unfortunately.
What about this beast right here?
Oh, the pit, man.
I don't know the property on its own, but
yeah.
I know that A, this is completely gnarly.
Yeah.
B,
this is insane.
This is a grail for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about this, man. Like, when I said I didn't read comics, I mean, that's not entirely, like The Pit was a comic that I really loved, right? But it was very frustrating with this artist. I think it was Dale Keown or something. He actually would take a long time to produce another issue, and people were upset, because it's such a cool character, and the story was pretty cool, but it's like, oh, that's awesome. You're welcome, man. Appreciate it. And
Unreal.
I love this character, and I just gave up on it because it was like I felt like a year before like another issue. But this artist is super talented, and I love this character. And then when Toy Biz sold the license to Hasbro, they had to come up with their own thing, right? Because they were going to continue to make toys. So then the Legendary Heroes line was born, and that's where all of a sudden we're going to take these cool characters from other comic lines, and then this is one of them. So on this line there was like Darkness, there was Marv, there was a bunch of really cool other comic characters besides the Marvel stuff. And the Pit, man, he's just awesome. He's pretty wild.
I have a look at the statue here.
Oh yeah, that's Juan Ramos right there. He's the man. He's hands on everything, man. He's a talented sculptor and been with me for like over 10 years now. We were talking about this the other day, but man, he's become an amazing talent. And yeah, we're at the Barclays Center, and the statue was there for I think 2 months, and it was a great location. So if you're not familiar with the Barclays Center, that's where the Brooklyn Nets play. Yeah,
that I know.
Right there, and that yeah, and of course there's concerts there as well. But it was in a great spot, and it got a lot of exposure. And then after that it moved to the place where it is now. But yeah, that's it. 13 feet of bronze. I think it weighs a ton. This was produced by Comic Cave Studio.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things,
Hmm.
Pugsy's breakout.
Oh yeah.
Someone mentioned this Pugsy in the chat earlier.
Pugsy, man, so you're unboxing that little figure there, and I was telling you about these new IPs or whatever. Like this was it for me. Like I've done so many of these like established characters that I wanted to work on something that was mine. Like something that was just completely original, for me. And then this character was born, and he actually started in a weird. How this all came about was that I was trying to produce a vinyl figure, because this was like maybe 13 years ago, and there was this big vinyl craze. Like everybody was producing vinyl figures and selling their original vinyl figures, and I was like, oh, I want to get into that. And the idea was that I'd make this figure and I have different colorways. Mm-hmm. And once I've sculpted this guy, he started to tell me the story of his life and journey. So the character came alive. I felt like he was he needed to be more than just this little statue. Like,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it was like, a little mistake, and ended up being a really cool thing. I gave it to the painter, and I wanted her to just paint like a striped shirt, kind of like a French shirt. I thought it'd be cute, this little pug with a striped shirt. And she painted him with a prison outfit. And I was like, oh, this is cooler, man. Like, and then all of a sudden it just came to, oh, like, Pugsy's in prison, he's from Brooklyn back in the day, but he got, like, way back. And then he got, locked up, and he comes back to Brooklyn after 70 years, because the timeline has to be like super dramatic. And then he comes back to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is upside down. It's not the neighborhood he knew. And so out of that little concept, all these other characters were born. And so I just added to them because I love dogs. And I was like, well, I can go crazy. There's like over 400 dog breeds, and I can just like start making each one. So,
Build the whole world.
Yeah. And it became that, so I think we got up to like 30. And then, these characters all had their individual stories, and this thing was just growing, like snowballing, right? And it was one of these projects that, like, anybody who kind of joined in was like, oh, they were joining in with their dog, like there was like, I have this dog, and this dog was from here, and it was awesome, and it still is, and we had some really good opportunities to, like, pitch it to like different studios and stuff like that, as like a series, and things fizzled away. And, it's probably partly my fault, because once I get into the work, I kind of abandoned this, and then I go back to it. And, but there's so much, information out there about this. Like we've done a mini game. We made a couple of animation clips, and we have all the other dogs, and, there's all these storylines that, one day we're going to just like reel it up, pull it all in, and then do something with it. Maybe a graphic novel or something like that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. But thanks for bringing that up, man. It's always nice to go down the Pugsy memory lane.
Yeah, you gotta give a little love to your own passion project. I went to DesignerCon last year,
Awesome.
and that whole world is new to me. The designer toys, the vinyls, but hearing you talk about that now, there's a lot of people putting out really cool vinyls and stuff. I mean, if you have stuff ready, there's a cool market out there for stuff like that. It's huge.
That I haven't been to DesignerCon, and I'd love to go one day. And it's probably where, like all the talent is going, to be honest, because like nowadays, like, you can produce things. Back then it was harder. Like, you really, I didn't have any connections, and it was like seeking all that out. But now there's more at your fingertips,
Yeah.
And I love that people are doing it, man. I love to see these independent things, and it's cool. That's how, right? All these characters were once that, like the Ninja Turtles. Like, I remember going into the comic shops, and Ninja Turtle was this like obscure little black and white comic, which was amazing, right? But look at it now, So it was born, it started somewhere.
It's Gaming with Dad 206 watching over on Twitch. What's going on? Says Decon is awesome. One of my favorite cons. C Murphy says Pugsy, please.
Oh, awesome. Very cool.
All right. Someone in the chat noticed we're matching. We've talked about the shirts. But the shirts were inspired from this.
Yeah.
I've told people before I got back into collecting, I was like, I want an X-Men 90s animated series team on my shelf, something like that. And I'm like, man, this Sentinel would be amazing at the center of that display. So being the new collector, I went online, I bought the individual characters mint on card from eBay.
Oh, wow.
And like Spider-Man, Sinister, Angel, they were pretty pricey.
Oh, wow.
But ultimately, I ended up completing one, and let's show everyone in the chat. If you don't have one,
nice.
this thing is incredibly detailed. You know, paint washes, deco. There's a shimmery shine here. It's like blue and silver.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, the details underneath the shoulder and the oblique. Do robots have obliques? Uh, you know,
yeah,
details in
right.
here.
It's pretty wild, right? Yeah. You know, the details, like especially like the guitar strings, right? Those are bass strings, pretty much straight up bass strings.
Yeah,
That's all it.
I've
But
heard you talk about that, but could you
yeah,
let everyone know like how you
yeah, I'll tell you the
came to that
story. Yeah,
discovery?
because you know, like you see the illustration and you see all these wires, and those are the nightmare parts. You know, you're like, oh man, everything else is like doable, but what am I going to do for that stuff? And I remember talking to Jesse Falcon, who was, of course, his the guy at Toy Biz that came up with the Marvel Legends concept. And then he was like, Dave, just take some bass strings and just throw them in there. And I was like, really? I was like, okay. And it's funny because I didn't even think about that. Like that makes perfect sense, and it worked out. It looks amazing. But those are all like bass strings, and I just stuffed them in there. It was like kit bashing, basically. So
That is.
yeah, and I always like, it's funny because sometimes you get so caught up with like, one process, and so it was really like it was not even on my radar to do that. So kudos to Jesse for that, man. He really
There
like
is
took it up a notch with that.
for sure. There's a section on Reddit where they show Star Wars props from the movies
Hmm.
and the original like regular consumer product that they took it from. Like a droid, like a Gonk droid was made out of two Tupperware containers or two storage totes,
That's
or
crazy.
something from a blender. That
Yeah.
Mandalorian's Camp Toto is from ice cream maker. So
Right.
like to hear something like this, you got the pattern for Spider-Man from a screen door, or just using bass strings like that. That's
Yeah.
really cool because you're not
Yeah.
you stress yourself about like, I gotta carve everything and do every little detail and all
Oh,
this, and
yeah.
it's
I
like, hey,
couldn't
use
imagine.
this.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine spending days on making those little wires. It's like, oh man, there's so much more to do on this figure. But then things like that allow you to concentrate on the other parts, which is great. Like the articulation and the and just the surfaces.
Well, how did the Sentinel, did Jesse just come up to you and be like, hey, we're gonna do a bath, build the
Yeah,
figure
man.
Sentinel?
At that point, I'm not sure if it was the first build the figure, because that might have been Galactus. I'm not sure, but it was one of the two. Was it or not?
I think this is first.
This was first. Yeah, so like at that time, like that was his idea. He was like, we're just gonna take, you know, put different parts and it was a brilliant idea. And then it was just like my job was just like, hey, just make this. I forgot the scale of that because it's like an odd scale. It's like 16, I think. But he was like, yeah, just make this 16-inch Sentinel, but and then they give me the articulation breakdown. But the reference, that was straight up comic reference. Like a lot of that stuff, like I kind of played with proportions a little bit, but that's straight up comic. I forgot which artist was the main, artist I was looking at, but that was true to the comic. Like I remember going crazy looking at the forearms, and the hand detail was actually farmed out. Like I had my friend who does fabrication. Um, oh man, I'm spacing on his name, but he did the hands for me because like they were crazy at the time. I was like, how am I going to do these hands? Like because that's all that like mechanical hard surface stuff. Oh, Ollie, that's totally forgot his last name. But anyway, he was brilliant at doing this like hard surface or like fabricated accessories. And yeah, and it was just like oh, and actually the feet, the bottom of the feet. If you look at the bottom of the feet, that detail was also done by Brian, who was doing all my molding and casting, he did some awesome details there. And like, but that kind of stuff, like the hard surface stuff, I didn't really mess with at that time because it would look bad if you're hand sculpting that kind of stuff. If you're not kit bashing stuff, you know, you could tell it's like wonky, right? Like it's a
Right.
little like
It's not uniform.
yeah. Then the symmetry is off and stuff like that. So I knew that like, okay, I'll get somebody else to do that. But then those like shells there with all the scribe lines, like that was straight up sculpting. You know, you just try to keep those lines straight. And yeah, let me see if I can bring this guy close, because this guy, you know, you might notice the paint, you know, is a little different. Is that messing up? I don't know if I could. Maybe I'll try to go behind it like that. You know, but
Oh, that's good.
yeah, this is like the original prototype. This is the one that, you know, I had like 3 or 4 of these painted, and then they were like sent to China to do them, you know, replicate. So this might has a little bit more layering with color than what actually was produced, you know. But yeah, I mean, and maybe like in the bronze on the coils, like there's more bronze in it. I think yours is a little bit more like silver wash or something like that.
Thank you, DK. He says that is the original master mold.
Yes,
Perfect.
this is
Perfect
it.
play on words there. Thank you, DK.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
And,
the Sentinel still holds up.
Yeah, man. The Sentinels, he's up there with high on the list of figures there. For me, you know.
Let's see. C. Murphy says, how can you get this shirt? Thank you for the easy plug.
Yeah.
Toyingaround.ca is the website. And there are only a few units left. I don't even have that many sizes left. So grab what you can. That's there. And
Are you going to produce more, or?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of a different way to do it.
I see.
You know,
Yeah.
it's something that's been, it's like 2-3 years now, and I don't know, maybe like a hoodie, because it's freezing out there. But I want
I love
to
hoodies.
find a good quality hoodie.
Yeah.
You know, a good print method for it, and you know, shipping hoodies is different from shipping a t-shirt. It's significantly bulkier. But
Right.
If that ever happens, or if I do a production sample, I'll get one printed for you too, man.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. That's how, yeah, going back to that story, that's how we met. You know, you contacted me and said, hey, I made a t-shirt of your Sentinel. And I was like, you sent it to me, man. And I was like, wow, this is an awesome shirt. Like, I love, you know, like I said, like the layout and everything. And, you know, it's cool that it's connected to my figure. So, I mean, I love seeing things like that, you know, and executed well. And can't go wrong with it. You know,
I figured it was only right to get one to you, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Let's see. I had a good question here. So there's the HasLab Sentinel.
Yes.
That recently came out.
The one behind you, yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, the one behind me. Yeah. Did you get one? Have you handled one? Do you like? What are your thoughts on it?
Man, I saw the video of it. It looks amazing. I haven't handled it, or I haven't done any, you know, projects with Hasbro for years. So I'm out of the loop of any of the recent Marvel Legends stuff. Like, I'm way out of the loop. I mean, but they're doing a beautiful job. Like I said, I saw what you were doing, showcasing or unboxing, and the stuff is really tight. And that Sentinel looks amazing, and the fact that it's so, you know, the right scale, I guess. Should say, right?
Huge.
What is that, 36 inches or how? No, it's not
26 or 28.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
In the chat knows, right?
I mean, so it's to scale, right, on a 6-inch.
I think it's close to. I don't recall exactly, but there's a lot of cool stuff that came with it. You know, the tendrils and everything. If you're not that caught up with recent stuff, do you know, like, there's that Marvel Legends 20th anniversary?
No.
The 20th anniversary coming out? So
Really?
they're redoing wave 1 of the Toy Biz Legends. So there's the Cap,
Really? Okay.
Toad, Hulk, and Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
I think that was wave 1 of Marvel Legends.
Yeah.
And you know, it's they have the background for the display on the new one. It's the same background that came with the one. The display base for Cap was the window in the World War II setting.
Okay.
There's that artwork. Have you seen? They're not out yet. Like they were announced, but have you seen stuff like that?
No, not at all, man. This is all new to me, and that's pretty cool. I'm even surprised that it's been 20 years. I knew it was close, but man, it's exactly 20 years. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think those are going to look amazing because they look awesome. The Toad and the Hulk was sculpted by Phil, and then I did the Cap and the Iron Man. So that wave one was all me and Phil Ramirez.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. I'm sure he heard about that, but I think that's amazing. I think that's really cool that they're acknowledging that previous work.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how do you feel? They're almost paying homage to Wave One.
It's sort of surreal, dude.
Right?
Because I'm like, what? But I kind of feel that way too. Like, without realizing, I guess that's kind of why we're documenting this work. It's weird, but there's something about like sensing that the time of 20 years is here. And that's why it's necessary to do this. Feel like, I didn't feel this way 5 years ago or 10, but 20 years is like, wow, that's significant. It's about time to it's weird for me, because it's like that time passing. But I think that's an awesome thing that they're doing. And I look forward to seeing them, man. I got to be up on this stuff, like I've been out of the loop, kind of buried in, my computer, just working on stuff all the time. But
well, you know what? It's I guess it's kind of cool that you didn't know, because I could kind of see your reaction.
Yeah, it's genuine.
To hearing about it.
Yeah, it's genuine.
They haven't revealed Toad yet, and I'm
Okay.
interested. I'm hoping he's not holding a toad in this one.
The
If there's
original he was, right? Okay.
Yeah, it was stuck. It
Wow.
was sculpted to his hand.
Oh man, I don't remember that. Yeah, that was Phil's sculpt though. Pretty
Right.
sure. Yeah.
Well, speaking of things that, bringing it to today, you've been in 20 plus years. All that crazy stuff you've told us about sculpting and finding ways to work better to get the quality of detail you want on these toys. What was the transition like to modern day 3D stuff? Like, was it easy for you to adapt? Was it something you were open to or resistant to at first? Let us know.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you about that. A friend of mine, Jeff Feligno, he started dabbling with the digital first. Like he was already into games and stuff, and he's a guy that I worked with at McFarlane Toys. And at the time, he was like, Dave, you got to check out this software, ZBrush. He's like, this is like amazing.
Nice.
It's like, yeah, it's like sculpting, but on the computer. And to me, just hearing that made no sense at all. I'm like, how do you sculpt on the computer? Like, and I was immediately
Touch the
dismissive
screen
of it.
like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there was all this talk about, there's this pen that you push against, because there was other technologies that they were doing that with, and it sounded horrible. I was like, why would I do that if I could just take clay and, And so the thing is that I was immediately afraid of it. Like, my initial gut feeling was like I don't want to invest the time in that, because here I got all my tools but the other problem solver side of me wanted to, be able to successfully, create something on it, because he was doing it. And I was like, man, like, that's cool what he's already making these creature faces. And then he was, kind enough to really be on me about it and say man, you gotta, I think he sent me a bootleg version of it, and I got to try it, and I was like, this is okay. But then once I got locked in, it was all over. Because, I could see clearly this is going to be the way we do it. Once I, knew that everything I learned about anatomy and articulation or whatever, that it can translate over, then I immediately like accept it, because I was like, okay, now it's just a matter of like, you know, physically being able to look at a screen and, you know, oh, cool. Thank you, man. Thanks, Sal. And, you know, that dexterity of like, you know, drawing on a tablet and looking there, like that disconnect. Once all that fell into place, then it was just like, okay, just got to know where to save a file and what tools do what. And then there was the progression, because once I made like a head, I wanted to make a body, and then I started to. So then it just took off. But I there was a lot of resistance that I understood. Like when I would meet like colleagues from the industry, you know, I'd hear things like, "Oh, you're going to the dark side,"
Yeah.
you know, because I'm basically abandoning like, you know, the clay work. But for me, it was always like, this is just another tool, man. Like this is, you don't have to give up your clay work. Like this is just another way of doing what we do. And you know, once I got good enough, like I'm not saying that I was like, you know, where I needed to be, but felt confident enough to take a job. One of the art directors at DC Comics, Brian Webster, he offered me, you know, hey, you want to do this sculpture in digital, which was Batman Arkham Asylum. And I was like, you know what, I'll do it. If you know, allow me to do it, I'm jumping all over this, because the best way to learn is on the job, at least for me, because, you know, now you got the pressure, you know, because you know how it is. Like, you know, you'll work on something and then you'll go back to your comfort zone, you know, but once you commit, there's like, that's it, got to do it. And that job, the Arkham Asylum Batman, it's like it's a strange figure, because there's a lot of weird choices, and I wasn't fully understanding, you know, like the perspective in the computer, but it was good enough, and I was happy with it, and they were happy with it. And then from there, I got more jobs, and then I started to investigate the other side of it, the outputting, the 3D printing. And now this was like way early in the game. Like nobody had printers. It wasn't like now. Like now you have.
They're still super expensive at that point.
Super expensive. And there was this one guy in Texas, and he was printing a bunch of medical stuff for other people. And I forgot how I met him. Oh, actually, it might have been through the sculptor, Joe Mena, who's super talented too. And he was actually one of the guys that was doing digital before I even knew it was possible to work that way. He was already doing it, which is crazy. And then, so here I go. I start, however I got the connection, I decided to use this guy, you know, to print my work. And so this time it was Sideshow Toys, the angel figure. It's a statue. I had like, it's on my Instagram, but that statue, the wings were sculpted by hand, you know. Yeah, there it goes. And the wings were sculpted by Masahiro Ito, who was a talented sculptor. But the body and the base were, you know, I did those digitally. And so basically this was like the first digital project that I had printed.
This one
here. Yeah.
Dude, this looks incredible. I watched this video a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And it was cool, because it was like, I mean, the horrible part was that the digital print cost more than the job paid me. So I made no money. It's like, but at least I got to see, you know, how it all goes down. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a printer. Right. So I saved a bunch of money and I bought a printer. And so I had a printer like way before. So like when people were just dabbling with, you know, ZBrush, I already like, you know, had a printer in my house. And so I was trying to always stay like a little bit ahead of the game, because that's the way it is. You know, you just got to kind of adapt or get left behind, I feel. And so the tools were, you know, you need a printer, you need good software, computer, and then
that's it.
You know, yeah. And that was the full transition, like this piece and the Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum was the sculpture, and this one was the print job, you know. And through that, I learned that, okay, this is possible. I can do the whole, you know, thing, because ultimately I wanted to have a physical piece again. Like I didn't want to give the company a file. I wanted to actually have the piece in my hand. And I was like, the only way to do that is to have a printer, you know.
And with this, you don't have to send it off to China to, I don't know, get a test shot or
Yeah,
prototype
exactly.
or something. You could
Yeah.
just print this all on your own now.
Yeah. And then, like, I don't know if many people aren't aware, but we had this little side project. Masa Fujita, an old colleague who we worked with alongside of each other at Toy Biz. He was doing all the mechanisms, and I was doing some clay sculptures, and like at the end they would kind of merge at some point. But he and I decided that we were going to take on the challenge of doing like a 3D printed figure at home. I mean, like at home, locally. Like we weren't going to go into production. We were going to 3D print this articulated figure, and that's the Art Bones project. So like that was like a whole separate thing, and we were basically like two stubborn guys that were going to like make this happen. And we produced about 200 of them, and we sold all of them, and it was a really tough challenge, but we did it, and it was pretty cool because he did all the articulation that was under the skin, and I basically did all these fitted parts that would go over, and it was a nice collaboration. I think I have one here. Yep. I have a couple here I could show you.
Yeah,
And
please.
then,
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, and like the idea was that we were gonna like max this thing out with articulation. He has all the articulation, and like here I have pants on him, but he I wish I had I wish they weren't on there, but I don't want to mess this thing up trying to take them off now. But it was like an in-house project. Here's like the anatomy figure. So I think I have this guy. Oh, I could show you this guy better. Let me show you this one because he's painted, so he brings out some of his detail. Let me take over his hand.
Oh,
so
dope.
he's fully articulated. Yeah, and this dude, it was pretty awesome. But this was all 3D printed. Let's see if your trick is gonna. I think my camera is just crappy.
No, you just have to find the right focal point for it.
Yeah. So like this was a cool project. If you go to artbones.nyc, you can see the website, and also there's a artbones.nyc Instagram. But like we had a great following, and I loved the support that I got for this project. But I want to apologize to these guys because we kind of fell off the face of the earth with this because it was just like a huge daunting task, and so I'm actually continuing it, but I continue it kind of like a side thing. Like I do it here and there. And so I let me show you. This is like a new body where the articulation is like a little bit more like simplified, This dude here, he's missing an arm right now. But I wanted to create like a base for these designs that I wanted to come up with, but not get into production with. Like I didn't want to make, 1,000 figures or 10,000, and then just of one design. Like I wanted a buck body that I could then change the design over and over, like as much as I want. So then I was doing a female figure, and this is what she looks like. She's like some cyberpunk chick here, and
Whoa, I would totally buy that.
yeah, and so like these are I'm still making them. It's just that it's slow, like I'll produce these once in a while when I have some time, and I'm pretty busy, so it's like it's hard to get them out the door, but I had some like really diehard. Oh, and actually D Amazing did an awesome video on it. Like he did a beautiful review on YouTube and got us like all this like
shout out to
fan
D
base
Amazing
overnight. Like
yeah,
thanks
Dragon
to
Eye
him.
says D Amazing put me on with one of those reviews for Art Bones.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad people. So anyway, just to let people know where this thing is like I'm going to like continue to do it, but I'm only producing them in like sets of 10s. I'm only producing a limited, like 10 figures of whatever I do. So the Cyberpunk was 10. I have another one in the works, and the last one was a Tyson figure. It was a fake Tyson because he's like a Tyson lookalike.
Tyson inspired.
Yeah, inspired. Yeah, and so like the idea was to like just kind of produce those whenever I want, but I can do it here. Like I don't have to go and mass produce this thing, and then we had accessories. So we were trying to like cater to that 1/12 scale collectors, out there. And it was just like, we'll just 3D print it, and whenever somebody needs something, we'll just like 3D print it for them. And there was a bunch of faces, like Yankee hats and things like might be a little
Says New York more than this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this project is still alive, but it's tough because, there's a lot of other things going on, but I refuse to let it go. I'm stubborn. And it's a lot of fun actually, so, I think, if I could find the time, I got some like talented people that are all for it. Like Amos Hemsley, he's a talented sculptor. Got to look his work up. He's helping me out. He wants to do work, and so Julio Herrera is also, into this project. But it's really just my fault that like I have to put it down once in a while. But yeah, that was the Cyber Chick. That's her right there.
This is crazy. And so you're, the beauty of it, you get to produce them in-house whenever you have the time. Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing. It was like, whenever we feel like it, we're gonna just produce. And these faces were painted because like this is how I was delivering it, like painted figures, So this is painted by Heather Pernack, and she does beautiful work at that scale, which is not easy, and so we're like these little tinted parts, like this jacket that the cyberpunk was wearing, is just right.
Just like unique pieces like that I can just produce in house. Like that was the goal. Like let's just make everything here, but of course it's got to be super low runs, So I mean, if you're a fan of the Arpone stuff, or appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for supporting that. And we're gonna, little by little, we'll get it going again. It's been slow.
I 3D printed a stick of butter.
What's that?
I 3D printed a stick of butter.
Oh, that's cool.
I modeled a stick of butter and printed it with yellow resin.
Was it melted in the end or something?
It's got like a slice.
Right.
At the end, and then some of it didn't stick properly to my print bed, so like a corner of it was kind of smudged, so it looked like pressed in melted butter, so it kind of worked out.
That's cool. So you do 3D printing too?
Yeah, I have 2 FDM printers and 1 resin printer.
That's cool.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a great tool. Yeah, it's like these days, I mean, like you can do anything really. Like it's crazy what like that was the point we were trying to prove with the action figure. Like the articulation on that first one is super sophisticated. Like it's got like these little O-rings. It's nuts. Like Turu did an amazing job with that. You'll never see a figure like that. What I'm doing now, it's more about an armature for like my designs, Mm-hmm. So it's still articulated. It functions, but it's not as graceful as the first one and unique. But it's just what we were trying to prove is that like, hey, we're at the point that we can do this. We don't need to like manufacture stuff, and because that's what it should be. Like you can do these one-offs. They're still a little pricey. I mean, they're not like it's not like a production piece that's going to be like $15-$20. It's like 100, 120, 150, but you're getting 1 of 10, and it's hopefully like a really special figure. I'm trying to see if I got anything else around here. I was making these way cheaper ones, these things, because I found a way. I found a way to produce these like cheaper versions of it, and I was going to try to get this down to like $40, because I wanted something that, more people can have, like, because it did bug me that, like we were above that 100, because I the point is like get it out there in people's hands. But this guy, it's pretty good, but again, it took a long time to assemble it. So that's why I didn't get them back up. And, people have been asking. So hopefully, if they're listening, they know the story.
People in the chat now who interested in the boxer,
cool.
Heck S, says, is there a way to be notified if they become available again?
I think the blast, like for now, I'm gonna start like putting things on Instagram. Before I was just putting them on the site and let people find it, kind of like, oh, if you just happen to browse over you, because there was no rush to some. But I think when I release them now, I'm definitely gonna announce them on Our Bones and Cortes Studio. Let people know this is there and give them a chance. And I'm not really. The goal is to finish them, assemble them, have them ready, so that when they're announced, they're pretty much ready to go. Because the first time around, we were like building them as they were being ordered, and then that was just crazy because it's just like no manpower.
Yeah, it's either that or take pre-orders, and then then you don't really have a timeline. You get to it when you can, but it's like if you have it ready, like, look, I'm gonna have a limited batch. This is your chance. I think it'll sell faster.
Yeah, and it's kind of better for everybody, like it's out of my studio. I don't have to think about it. And then the buyer is like super happy to get it in 5 days or something like that, so
yeah, everyone loves that.
Yeah,
nobody likes to wait a year for pre-orders.
I don't want to wait. I'm waiting for a one wheel, man. I ordered the GT and they keep delaying it, and I'm like, come on, man. Like I thought I was gonna get this in late January. Now it was pushed to February. Now it's pushed to March. And I'm like, well, as long as it comes when the weather is good, I'll be all right. So
I want one, but I don't go anywhere where I can ride a one wheel. I'll just take my car, or drag my kids in a wagon behind me. It's not going to work.
Oh, on a bike? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. But you see here, there's no parking anywhere.
Right.
So like if I drive, I'm looking for parking for 45 minutes. So it makes no sense so the one wheel is like my main source of transportation, but it's also like a lot of fun, man. A lot. And I had a really bad spill and I still love it. So it tells you that it was crazy. Very but cool. It's just got to be careful. That's all. Yeah.
So we talked about the transition to 3D sculpting, digital sculpting, and it's cool because now you can like get an iPad. I know my friends like High School Creation 796 Poncheesy. They have an iPad. They just use the pen and just start sculpting. Watch TV, sit on the sofa, sculpt a little bit, create your file, load it up, and you can have a custom for your action figure like in a couple hours, depending on the height of the print. So it's kind of crazy. And then, I had this up on the screen earlier. You've got these like face filters. What's going on with these? These are awesome.
Those things, and like to me, this technology just it doesn't get old. Like it amazes me every time. Like, how is this possible? That's my friend Nestor right there. And he's man. And this thing is like crazy because it's the same tools, right? Like I'm making a ZBrush model. I'm bringing it into software AR Spark. And there I just do a couple of things and I can map it to someone's face. And then I could give it out for free and let people play with it. Like, I think that is so cool, this whole process that, you can create something and just put it out there. Like, and then people do some creative things like the Hulk filter. It's got like, I think as of yesterday, it was like 60 million views. And I'm like, wow, like 60 million people have used this. Well, no, 60 million people viewed it or liked it, I should say. Mm-hmm. It's been used about like say 10 million times, but it's amazing like to have that reach. And then like with this, it's just like I could have fun. I could sculpt something and spend a couple of days on it and then post it and let people do things with it. It's not as involved as like say making an action figure, every time. Like it's like a quick exercise. And then people get creative and they post up amazing things with it. So I've been playing with this stuff quite a bit because I'm big into the AR, VR stuff. I think that's the next level. I'm just trying to like get to know the software and be ready for that time. But this thing intrigues me.
Cool marketing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more you can do with these AR things. I have this big idea that one day I'm going to try to reel it in, but to incorporate some of this with the figures that I make. So basically, like you can buy like an R Bones figure or whatever it is, and then you'd have like a ton of expressions that are a part of the filter. So that when you photograph your figure and he's jumping up in the air with the sword, and you can use the filter of him screaming, but you only have the one face. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
you can kind of like, and you could have 10 different expressions and really play along with your photographs, and make it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Machu Toy says, does Kevin get points if I bought stuff from Dave's site? You absolutely, I absolutely would get points. So the points they're referring to is when I enable somebody to buy something. Me and my friends came up with this system where it's like, we collect points. Oh, I enabled that person to buy this. Why is this Mike Tyson off your site? That's 150 points for me. And it's a huge debate of like, did you enable me? Or, well, I wanted that to begin with, or stuff like it's just a silly joke that we've got going. And like, it turned to this whole thing called the enablers. And we just try to get people to buy stuff. And you know what? It started with 3D printers.
Really? So you enabled
3D
some
printers.
people to buy 3D printers?
Yeah, I got a Anycubic Mega X, which is an FDM printer, and the print bed is like 300 by 300 by 300. So it's a huge print bed.
It's pretty massive.
Because I wanted it to print props for toys, background pieces, diorama, stuff like that. And then I got a couple of people to get it, and they're like 300 points here, 300 points there. Shout outs to Yoko, fellow enabler. She said, "It is not a joke. This is real life." Yoko takes it very seriously. So it did start with 3D printers, which is hilarious. So buy some stuff off the site.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Like I won't put things there that I, don't have. Like I hate that. Like I hate when you order something and it, it doesn't show up, or it takes I'm not doing that to people. So if it's there, if it's posted, then I have it. But if it's not, I really don't. And just try to keep it like honest that way, so that nobody's waiting for something too long, and I'm not having this added pressure to produce something. So I mean, like the heads and stuff like that I print often, so that's no big deal. But like the full figures, like when I do have something ready, I'll announce it. So the next one's going to be a female figure again, because she's almost ready.
So you've got Jazzwares, the Art Bone stuff. What can you tell people about? Because you got a lot of projects, different things. What can you tell people about that they can look forward to?
Okay.
And the second part is, what's something that you haven't had a chance to sculpt? Character, property, something that you hope to do one day.
Wow. I gotta think about that second one,
because you've done a lot of really cool ones.
Yeah, there's like get back to that question, but the first one was like, the two big things that I'm excited about is to see how people respond to that 2.25 inch line, because they're pretty cool, and I think that's gonna like establish a new, like, I know they're tiny, but like it's great for shelf space. So I just want to see how I think those are gonna be a hit. I like them. They're great. There's a bunch of them coming, and then there's if everything continues as planned, is this Spider-Man project. So those are the two things that
sweet.
Like I'm looking forward to as far as the commercial, stuff. Like Spider-Man is actually not even that commercial. That's more like a, art project, right? And then as far as like what would I like to sculpt? I mean, I'm really itching to do like a crazy, muscled out creature, like the Pit, like I need to get my hands into something that's just like crazy deformed. I mean, like, I'm not so excited. Like the bad thing is, like, in a way, I'm kind of glad that I don't do like a lot of the Marvel stuff now, because most of it is based off of the movies, right? And the thing that I'm least excited about is like anything that has to match something that exists. You know, so if
Okay.
it's like, you know, hey, sculpt Guardians of the Galaxy, but it has to be exactly like that still, you know, movie frame, that doesn't excite me at all, you know, because
Okay.
it's just like, you know, because I feel like, you know, there's a lot of guys that can do that way better than me. But as far as like, you know, I just want to get into like doing some, you know, crazy mutant creature, something like that. I need like a loose project like that, like the early stuff I was doing with McFarlane, like the Tortured Souls, like something that just is detailed but loose at the same time. You know, it's like I can really play with proportions and pose. Like it's been a while since I've done something like that. Like at this point, I'm doing that for myself, my own personal work, which is cool. But as far as like a license, you know, project, I'm not really doing that. You know, and I miss it. So yeah, so that would be like a dream project. I don't have one specific, unfortunately, but that's
Okay.
as close as I can get to that explanation. You
Well, I
know?
mean, it's cool. Like you know, you're saying you're Scarface fan, and you got to do some stuff like with Mezco doing
Yeah,
Scarface stuff. So
yeah,
you know, been in the game for so long, you got to check some boxes, and I think that's really cool.
yeah,
Pursue
yeah,
some more personal stuff that you're into.
yeah, yeah. You know, I dabble in a lot of different things, and like my own personal work, like my true personal work, is very different than all this stuff. You know, like it's wood sculptures. It's like you know, I explore different subject matter and stuff like that. Like more like this, you know, boxer head in behind me here. It's a little small. I'll bring it over. But this is kind of like what I do. Uh, you know, when I have my own time. You know, this is like a face being
Oh, right,
punched, but the fist is not there. You know, it's like it's called the Phantom
like a
Punch.
freeze frame in slow
Yeah,
motion.
exactly,
I dig
exactly.
that.
Yeah, so I've done a series of these, and you know, these are the kind of things that I do when I truly want to be, you know, loose with sculpture. And this is not loose at all. You know, like somebody will laugh at that me using those words to describe this, but you know, compared to the commercial work, I guess it's looser. You know, but yeah,
Oh man,
yeah.
I was
So you
just
know,
scrolling
a
through.
lot of stuff happening. So you know, hopefully I can keep it going. You know.
That's dope. Hunker Mike says Phil Ramirez is working on an independent monster toy line, Cursed Dead. If you did a guest spot on that line, that would be sick.
That's cool. I
Seriously.
mean, that's cool. I didn't know you did that. That's right up his alley too. Like he always did some awesome, you know, creatures and big hulking monster characters. That's awesome. I gotta check that out.
You know, we ran a little bit past the
Oh
projected
yeah, wow.
time because hey, you know, there's a lot of great stuff to talk about and get into. But you know, everyone in the chat is just saying they love your work, everything that's come
Awesome.
through, and looking forward to stuff in the future, man.
Well, hey man, this was an awesome thing to do. You know, I was you know, glad to connect with you, and thank you for the shirt. And I appreciate, you know, the fandom out there. Like, you know, I'm glad that this stuff is being recognized and appreciated again, because it seems like it's happening like all over again, which is really awesome. So thanks for that, man.
Yeah,
And you know, more stuff to come.
absolutely. I have your Instagram
Yeah.
and the website URL down in the video description here on YouTube. But you know, where can people check in on your stuff other than IG? Or is that's good? That's everything.
Yeah, I think right now that's the main focus. You know, I'm not really, I don't have much of a presence on Facebook or anything else at the moment. So I think Instagram is probably going to be the most current social media. And the website, as you can see, is like super outdated, but you know, go there for the archival stuff. I mean,
It's cool,
that's what
man.
we're doing on Instagram too. So eventually they'll match, you know. But yeah, man, like otherwise, you know, anything that comes up, I'll be sure to like contact you direct. to give you a heads up on any of these like projects, like the Spider-Man thing. And you know, this is an awesome, you know, trip down memory lane for me. So yeah, man.
Well, I do want to thank you for your time and sitting down chatting with me. I know it's getting a little late. It's getting a little cold. You know, it's going to be cold riding the one wheel home. So, but it's winter. I imagine it's very snowy out there. But
Yeah.
everyone, I hope you enjoyed this conversation, checking out all of Dave's work. Make sure you follow him on all the socials. And if you want more, you know, more toys, to be aware when they're available, make sure you're following and Artbones so you don't miss new releases, because there's, you know, 20 years in the game, but doesn't look like you're slowing down, man. It's going to be a lot of cool stuff. So, and also, I need to find man cakes when it comes out.
Coming out soon, man. There's
Yeah,
two
I
versions,
need that.
4-inch and 2.5-inch, 2.25. So man cakes
Yes.
is and he's awesome, I should say. It's really awesome.
I can't wait. I'm going to be army building those, by the way. All right, everybody
Cool, man.
watching, thank you so much. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you check that you're subscribed on the way out. You can catch up with me on Instagram at Toying Around or Twitter at I'm Toying Around. Make sure this way, go check out all of Dave's awesome stuff. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I'll see you tomorrow,
Thanks, Harry.
everyone, in the chat
Good
for
night,
Star
man.
Wars. Boba Fett. Have a great night. Keep toying around. Peace.
All right.